Welcome to the Feminine Thriving Podcast, brought to you by the Jade Temple, the sisterhood devoted to the wisdom and pleasure of the female body.
We are your hosts, Tamara Klemich and Hilary Kimball, and we are excited to journey with you as we share all about how to move from surviving to thriving in a female body. Thriving for us means you feel a sense of safety in your own body, that you are dripping with sensuality and aliveness, that you're experiencing pleasure and orgasms that connect you to your own divinity, and you feel confident, powerful, and abundant walking this planet with a badass community of sisters by your side. Oh, and we welcome the mess, the mud, the chaos, and embrace all that it is to be a woman.
There will be solo episodes, episodes with both of us, and episodes with other smart, wise, funny, and sexy women, and maybe even men, to share their embodied wisdom with us. We acknowledge our sharing on this podcast comes from the experiences and viewpoints of us, two white, middle-class, cisgendered women. If we ever say anything that causes harm to you or your experience on the planet, please share with us so that we can continue to grow, learn, and bring new perspectives also to this space.
So, without further ado, let's drop into today's juicy episode. Welcome back, loves, to the Feminine Thriving Podcast. Today you have just me, Tamara, sharing a solo episode. It's my first solo episode, so I observe a little bit of a desire to want to get it right. And I also have a little bit of nervousness because I actually have recorded this podcast a few times. I've been having technical difficulties. So I'm really crossing everything that I get through this podcast. Everything is recorded and it actually works. So let's see how we go. Maybe we can actually all start with a couple of deep breaths. So taking a deep inhale. And one more, just to land in this space together. So today I just want to share a little bit about my own personal journey. I've been thinking about it as sort of from numbing to embodiment. I share it because I have definitely had a pretty strong relationship with numbing and avoiding pain and avoiding feeling, and using a lot of substances along the way to support me in that mission. And I actually was just reflecting last month, I think, how sometimes I actually forget how big it is that I don't really drink anymore. Like, I might have a glass of wine here or there, even on my birthday, which was just on this weekend. I had maybe one Aperol Spritz and, I don't know, half a glass of rosé or something. And it's like, sometimes I forget how big it is because of my relationship, particularly with alcohol, since a very young age. And I still have moments, of course, where I numb or avoid feeling. And there's no shame in doing that. Sometimes it's actually really healthy for us to not go too deeply into everything. But I really believe and know from my own experience and from the experience of what I see with many other women and men actually, this ability to feel our feelings. It's to be in the body, to be connected to the wisdom of the body, to feel our feelings, and to be able to be in the discomfort when there is discomfort, so that we can be in the pleasure and the bliss as well. Our capacity for feeling expands on both sides. So when we're numbing, we're also numbing the good stuff. So just to share about my own journey, I guess, where to start? I would say that sort of numbing for me started at a pretty young age. When I'm thinking about substances in particular, like I remember being very young, I also was a little bit of a rebel, so always liked to try out pushing the boundaries and breaking the rules. But substances really started, I'd say, even like 12, 13, 14, all of those ages, whether that be from smoking cigarettes out behind the kind of sheds in the schoolyard after school hours, or alcohol is, I think from a really young age, was like really in a place of abusing alcohol and getting pretty drunk. I have a lot of memories. It's a big part of my pattern in teenage years to get really, really drunk when we're out with friends, and I would always end up crying and some kind of drama. I really went into that using of cigarettes, of alcohol, and then eventually also moving into drugs, different types of drugs throughout the teenage years into my 20s and 30s. I also come from a country, I grew up in Australia, where like alcohol and binge drinking and drinking regularly, even every day, is really, really normal. It's really not even frowned upon in many places and in many parts of Australia. It's a big, big part of the culture. It's like you meet for drinks, you have drinks with dinner. It's really very, very common for people to drink a lot. And I also actually worked in an industry, I worked in advertising, where drinking was not just accepted, it was encouraged. So I had free bars, free fridges of free booze in most of the places that I worked. We had company drinks often at 5 o'clock, or even earlier, depending what day of the week it was. When I was in London, we had buckets of wine and beer put out on the communal areas at 5 o'clock every single day, free alcohol, which was really a little bit of I would say even a manipulation to encourage people to sit at their desks and drink and work later. And we also had a very big party vibe in that industry. So taking out clients, taking out our teams, wining and dining, celebrating. We had a lot of awards dues with a lot of amazing, amazing parties, and I celebrate that. It was an incredible part of my life. But I didn't have to shy away from this part of me, I would say. It's something that was really welcomed in most areas of my life. And it allowed me to really dive into this aspect of numbing. And I would say that I was always I identified as the party girl. It was a big part of my identity. I always used to say things about the last woman standing, and if anyone wanted to have another round, they could always rely on me. It was part of my identity. And I think many times when I would try and do a month off alcohol, back in the days, it was almost like I would just stay at home or not go out and do things completely differently, because it was I didn't know how to be out and not be that party girl. So it was just stay home and be a completely different person and live a different lifestyle for a month. And even into the my 20s and 30s, there was also a lot of experimentation with other types of drugs. Partied a lot. I really burnt the candle at both ends. I also used work as a way to avoid feeling. It was great to be busy all the time when you were not truly happy. That's kind of the way I see it looking back. I had amazing experiences, and I'm super grateful for all of them. And I always had a bit of a love-hate relationship with advertising. I think there was always something inside me that was this is not your truest place. This is not your true alignment. Numbing with work, numbing with substances, and even as later, as social media and phones and smartphones came a thing, like definitely diving into that endless scrolling and numbing as well. And yeah, I think it's just such a big part of the society that we grow up in that is like afraid of feelings, afraid of sadness, afraid of anger, afraid of loneliness, afraid of rejection, of all of these feelings inside of us. And many of these feelings I have learned in my now, I guess 5-6 years of deep study of like being so deep in this work. They're only as uncomfortable as we kind of tell ourselves they are. They can be uncomfortable. There is discomfort, but once we learn to actually be with these feelings, it can change everything in our lives. Even, I would say, we can find pleasure in some of those really uncomfortable feelings. And that was definitely my experience in my recent separation, my heartbreak, which was the greatest heartbreak of my life, which was probably the hardest thing I've ever been through. And that loss and that grief and that, like, yeah, it was so deep, and it was a really deep and long process for me, and I needed to go into those emotions. And I can tell you, even some of the times that I was in my hammock in despair, crying my eyes out, I could still switch this lens into, wow, this is still really pleasurable because it's actually some form of love that's creating this heartbreak. And actually the sensations in the body are aliveness, and wow, this is actually really beautiful, and finding some kind of pleasure even in the deepest, darkest sorrow that I was feeling. So yeah, I guess my experience with this constant state of numbing was just like work harder, drink more, party harder, avoid, until one day I was on a yoga retreat. I've told this story a few times, but I was on a yoga retreat over Christmas break. And at that time, I guess I would say that I'd had so much of what I'd worked my ass off for so many years. I was running a really successful account that was making some of the best creative work in the world and making a positive impact. And I was running one of the biggest accounts in the UK, and was part of a succession plan within the company that I worked for. And I was on this yoga retreat and I could not relax. I couldn't switch off. I couldn't even enjoy this. It was a 5-day retreat, I think, with 6 or so other women, and I could not enjoy it at all. I couldn't even relax and switch off. And I just had this like deep realization, this deep knowing, like, I'm just so unhappy. Like, I'm stressed about the year to come. I'm already like stressing about everything that I need to do next year. I am basically an alcoholic. I am overweight. Like, I felt horrible in my body. I had been single most of my adult life. My relationship was to my job. And I just realized, like, this is not making me happy. I can't do this anymore. And once I had that realization, I went back into the office the first day in January, and I shared the news with my boss at the time and just said to him, like, whatever your plan is with me, as I said, it was part of a bigger plan. You're going to need to change it because I won't be here by the end of the year. I don't know what I'm going to be doing, and I don't know what it looks like or when, but I know I won't be here at the end of the year. And I think about 3 weeks later, we had a big meeting, a really big meeting. There was, a lot of people's jobs are on the line. When, there's these crunchy moments of presenting work for big clients or pitches, and it can really be a make or break for people's jobs, and you can feel a lot of pressure for that. And we had a bad meeting, and I remember I went into the office of the head of my department at the time, and I just couldn't stop crying. I couldn't regain my breath. I was having almost like a panic attack. It was a panic attack. And she was very good, actually. And she was like, you need to go home and you need to rest and you need to have some time off. And as soon as I kind of had these words spoken. And I went home, my whole body just basically started shutting down, started collapsing. And like I was just in this state of nonstop crying. I couldn't stop crying, and I couldn't regulate my nervous system. And if I tried to go into the office, like I had maybe 1 week off, and then of course being like the tough, strong woman, I'm going to go back. I can do this. I'm okay. Try and go back to the office. And as soon as I would get like within 1 block of the office, I would start having these panic attacks again, and I would be crying uncontrollably. I remember once I was like downstairs from my office, and one of the beautiful women that I worked with, she ended up coming over, and she was like, oh my God, like, look at you. And I was so embarrassed because I can feel a lot of emotion coming up right now as I'm talking about this. Whew. Yeah, I was really embarrassed because I was meant to be, like senior and able to hold my emotions. And I was constantly presenting this like facade of being in control, of like being able to hold it all, which is actually part of the breakdown. Not being able to feel the real feelings and present the truth of what's going on underneath the surface. And yeah, the this beautiful woman that I worked with, she was just like, wow, are you okay? What's wrong with you? Like, look at you. Oh my gosh, you need to go home again. And again, I would go home, and I would attempt to come back, and my body would just shake and cry. And so, yeah, it became very, very apparent and very, very clear that I needed to change everything. I'd already made the decision with my mind. And as soon as I had made it with my mind, my body was like, oh, thank God, thank God, thank God, and just stopped functioning, or stopped allowing me to function in the way that I was for so many years. So, yeah, I did from there decided to like care for my body and my health as my number one priority. And I already started, I think I quit smoking, and I started to like drink less or drink more like carefully. And I was, very much into yoga, and had always been into yoga for many years, but more so as a practice of like exercise and trying to keep my body skinny or slim, rather than a spiritual practice. And yeah, I just started to like really know that my health was my number one priority, and taking care of myself was my number one priority. So I started shifting my lifestyle. I eventually left the job. I actually was working very few hours, or working less hours from home a lot of the time. Like they really, I would say, were allowing me to take care of myself, in probably a bit of fear that I may have, I would say, been able to, I don't know, take them to court or something, because I was working very clearly more than my capacity. I had taken on too many jobs within one job. And yeah, eventually I left. And even as I was leaving, I was like, my farewell party, I can't even remember the end of it. I literally can't remember. It's like just, it might sound like I'm contradicting, because I just said I was taking care of myself, but it was almost like when I was in that environment, when I was back in that environment, I just needed to like drink it away. So yeah, and then I did what I would say many people that I've come across do, which is drop themselves in India and have a life-changing experience. And in many ways it's a cliche, but there's a lot of reasons why people have such a deep and profound experience in India, I think. And that's that all of the identities and the masks and the things that we've built up around who we are and how we present ourselves to the world, and all of it just falls away. You're in this foreign place that makes no sense, where none of the rules apply that you've known your whole life, literally none. And you are like stripped back to being like this naked little human of like, who am I without all of those identities? Who am I without all of the stuff that I've built up about who I am and how I present myself to the world, and my personality and my this, and all of that falls away, and you're just kind of left with digging deeper and deeper into the core of who you are. And of course, wrapping that up in a place that is so, so devoted to something greater than themselves, to prayer, to spirituality, to this sort of divine oneness, for lack of better words. It's a place of devotion. India is a place of devotion. It's everywhere, and you cannot help but be touched by that. And for me, I was there. That was part of the reason I was in India. I was on a journey, a spiritual journey, to seek answers about life. What is this life about? It has to have been about more than what it was until that point. And yeah, I really did find a deep, deep spiritual calling, and a deep practice with my yoga. I went very deep into my yoga, and very deep from there into Tantra and other aspects of uncovering my relationship to my body and my sexuality, and just discovering myself in so many new ways and so many new levels. And I think that the two biggest key, actually they're all big keys, but like finding some spiritual sort of path, something devotional higher than myself, connection to something higher than myself, connection to each other, connection to nature, was a very big part of my journey. Then, of course, this relationship to sexuality, which I think is just fundamental to us as humans and our relationship to ourselves, really being able to tap into the sacredness and innocence of our sexuality. The fact that we are sexual beings, and that our sexuality doesn't make us wrong, doesn't make us dirty, and it doesn't make us evil, but it actually is part of our connection to the divine, that it actually can become a prayer, and it can actually become one of the most beautiful and deep and intimate and beautiful things that we can experience. And when we take away all of the layers of shame and the layers of the fact that we shouldn't be doing this, even people who are in committed married partnerships, there are layers and layers of shame around sexuality that we get implanted and that we carry with us as humans. So this is a huge part of embracing the body that we are, embracing the human that we are. And then, of course, my later journey, going deeply into somatics and being more deeply connected to this female body, embracing all parts of this female body, connecting to my breasts, to my womb, to my yoni, through somatic practices, through feminine embodiment practices, through self-pleasure practices, through movement, through all of the tools that we have to connect to our bodies. And this is like a fast forward journey of my embodiment journey. But I guess what I'm sharing is a journey from complete disconnection, from overriding all of my needs, from having zero boundaries, from like finding ways to avoid and numb from the reality that I was living a life that wasn't truly in alignment. Even though it was wonderful and I actually celebrate that life so much, it wasn't fully in alignment for what my path and my calling was on this planet. And when we're not in alignment, our natural instinct is to avoid really admitting that to ourselves. And when we do start to feel and come into the body, it's so clear when we're not in alignment that we can't help but live from that place, and can't help but follow the steps to find a path and to find a way to live little moment by moment more in alignment with our true nature and with our true needs and desires and within our true boundaries. And I can honestly say that every single day of my life, I wake up in gratitude and I go to sleep in deep gratitude for how beautiful my life is. And I know that I carry a lot of privilege. I know that I've come from a lot of privilege, And yet I have still made this happen on so many levels, from brave choices, from big choices, from small choices, and mostly from being able to come into this body and listen to what she needs and listen to what's a yes and what's a no, and to start to find the courage to follow that. It's not always easy, and it does take practice, but the tools are simple. And really, I truly believe from the bottom of my heart that this is where our power is, particularly as women, but for all humans, our power is in our connection to our body. And when we can connect to this body, we can hear the wisdom of what we want and what we don't want, what feels good, where we're safe, where we feel danger. And when we're connected to our body and we can actually feel our feelings, we can expand our capacity, not only to be in the discomfort, but to expand and be truly in this like a huge, immense amount of pleasure that is available in what I call our pleasure suits. This is a human pleasure suit, and we get to do one life in it. We are in this body from the first to the last breath. It's the only relationship that we have from the beginning to the end of our lives. And when we can be in relationship with it, when we can be listening to her or him if you're in a male body, and in relationship, nourishing, caring for, taking care of, listening, communicating, when we're in this beautiful, deep relationship with our body, life truly is a completely different experience. So my greatest wish is that everyone on the planet, particularly every woman on the planet, can come back into this connection into her body. We've been so conditioned to disconnect through judgment, through comparison, through being shamed, being taught that our body parts and the processes of our body, from bleeding to even breastfeeding to anything that it somehow is dirty or something that should be like kept in the dark and not be seen. And so many parts of this just natural, beautiful, amazing, incredible body being shamed and judged. So yeah, I'm so excited to be on this path and to be able to share this work with others, to be able to share this work with other women. Every single week we have a feminine embodiment class here in the Jade Temple, and every single week there are women that are like, wow, how did I not know about this sooner? This is the thing I've been looking for. This is the answer I've been looking for all this time. I even had a woman this week who was, I don't know what age she was, but she was a mother of someone on the island. And she just said, she said, I feel a deep sadness that like I haven't spent this whole life not loving this body. And that's in a 2-hour class, that she could feel the impact of what it's like to come into communion with the body. And yeah, that is one of the reasons that Hillary and I have created this new 10-day mini course called Connect to Your Female Body. And it's so easy to share about this because it's so beautiful, and we've really poured our love into it. And it's very, very small bite-sized pieces, delivering the tools so you can learn the tools that we use in Jade Temple Feminine Embodiment. We give every day a new video, a new email will arrive in your inbox, and there'll be a 5-minute video that's talking about a particular topic, and then a short practice to support that 5 minutes. So it's 10 minutes a day in this 10 days mini course, cultivating at the end with a 20-minute feminine embodiment practice taught by Hill. And it's so beautiful, and it's free, and we want it to get to as many women as possible. So if you're listening now and you feel a little bit inspired by what I've shared, and you feel, yeah, like it could be something that's for you, please sign up at thejadetemple.com/ I think mini course. Anyway, all the links will be in all the places. But please share it. Please share it with your friends. Please share it with your mum. Please share it with your auntie. Please share it with women who may not be so easily able to access this information, because it's free, and we really, really want to get beyond just the little bubbles that we find ourselves in so often in these communities. So yeah, I think I will close there. But yeah, I love to share my journey. I love to share a lot about my process, in the hope that maybe in some small way it helps someone else. I know I get a lot of messages and emails from people sharing how my authenticity online is supporting them in certain processes that they're also going through. And so, yeah, it's like it's something that I just love to do, and to normalize being human because it can be challenging to be human, and we're all a bit messed up, and we're all amazing, and we're all unique, and we're all beautiful. But the more we share about all of these different experiences that we have, the more we can like just all feel okay in that messy, chaotic, beautiful, unique human that we are. So if there's ever anything that you would like to hear more about, any particular topic or anything from what I've shared, and in any other like post or at any other point, and you want to hear more, please let me know. Of course, if you have feedback, questions, we love to get feedback, responses, be in community, be in communication. So let us know. Otherwise, do all the things like rate us, subscribe, follow, those kinds of things. And yeah, wish you a beautiful day, a beautiful night, a beautiful week. And thank you for listening. So much love. Thank you for listening, sisters. We hope you're feeling expanded after being here with us. If you are, the best way you can support us on this journey of creating free content for this movement is to rate, review, or share this podcast. It would mean so much to us as we try and grow this sisterhood into a global revolution.
And if you want to hear all of our latest news, get free practices and tips, and learn about our offerings, sign up for our juicy emails at thejadetemple.com. Thank you so much, sisters. We love you and hope to see you soon.